Last night, as the NBA's free agency began, the Raptors made their mark by bringing back Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young on multi-year deals. So in today's video, we're going to discuss what these signings really mean for the Toronto Raptors and if they were worth the money that we gave them. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Hour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I give you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, and I'm going to be doing it all throughout the offseason. So if you find yourself enjoying this video, then be sure to subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers. We're getting very close, and you can help us along the way, and in return, you get all this great Raptors content. Also, be sure, if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, you drop a like on the channel to support this video and help us get to 250 likes on this one. I know that we can do it. But today, we are talking about Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young. Hey guys, before you watch, quickly let you know that I made this video yesterday morning in anticipation to release it yesterday afternoon, but as I was editing the first time, Otto Porter Jr. signed with the Raptors, so the video for yesterday became that. I had to do a different video, so this one is going to come out today, obviously, but I recorded it yesterday morning without the information about Otto Porter Jr., so just keep that in mind as you're watching it. This was recorded yesterday with yesterday morning's information. Okay, back to the video. They have both re-signed with the Raptors on multi-year deals. Raptors fans are pretty happy about this. I mean, our bench, already as rough as it is, really needed as much help as it could get, and Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young were immense to the Raptors on the bench, especially late in the season, and even more especially in the playoffs. I know the Raptors lost that first round series to the 76ers, but we won 2 games, and a big reason why we won 2 of those games were because of Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young. I mean, off the bench, the way those two played, and not just the way they played, but the way they played together, like, they were ridiculous. Thaddeus Young in the playoffs turned into like a prime Jason Kidd type of playmaker. The passes he was throwing down low to Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher was finishing them off with tons of authority, tons of aggression, playing super well, even knocking down a few threes in the playoffs. I mean, beyond just that sample size, these are some good players to bring back to the team. But we do need to discuss the valuation. We do need to discuss their valuation from a contract standpoint and from the team standpoint. So what we're going to do in this video, we're going to go through them one by one. We're going to talk about their impact on the team last season, talk about the possible impact on the team next season and the years going forward, and finish off with if they are really worth the amount of money that we gave them. So for starters, Chris Boucher, this season, coming into this season at least, we had very high hopes for Chris Boucher. In that Tampa season, he really broke out as a leading 6th Man of the Year candidate and a leading MIP candidate. He was never really in the discussions like as a finalist, but certainly he was in the discussions for people talking about the awards. Like, he was an actual 6th Man of the Year candidate, the way he was knocking down threes at a consistent rate for the first time in his career, getting to the rim well, and rebounding extremely well. And let's be honest, the start of this season that just transpired, Chris Boucher was an absolute shell of himself. Unable to do anything really offensively. He kept on chucking threes that just weren't falling for him. Defensively, seemed to be always out of position, always jumping at pump fakes. Like, there was no role for him. Like when he was on the court, he made the Raptors worse consistently. There was a DNP in there, and that rough game where the Raptors lost by like 40 points to the Cavaliers that just changed things. Chris Boucher decided that for him to have a role for the Raptors or an NBA team in general, he had to be the energy guy. He had to be the hardest working player on the floor. So from that point forth, that's what he made himself, and that's what made him into a really good role player for the Raptors, a much-needed role player for the Raptors. A decent defender. He was scoring on the inside with a good amount of efficiency. Like, you know, he wasn't the best player on the inside, like, admittedly, but super energetic and was very much a big part of the Raptors' success in winning 48 games, especially for that late stretch of the season. You know, not always the most talented guy, but a guy who is willing to work for himself, for his team, for his teammates, to make everybody around him better, just to make everybody's job a little bit easier, stop biting on as many pump fakes. He had a big role in the team. Thaddeus Young came into the team at the trade deadline, in a trade that Raptors fans like myself just didn't really like. Giving away a first-round pick to get a possible rental of Thaddeus Young at his age didn't seem like a great move by the Raptors, but after warming up to him, he took a little bit of time to get adjusted to the team. And, you know, granted, playing for the Raptors, who, you know, this switchable team, this all-forward type of team, it could be a difficult adjustment. Once he made that adjustment, he was an important part of the team, good defender offensively, got in those gritty areas, did the right things on offense. Not the most flashy guy on offense by any stretch of the imagination, but somebody else who's just willing to work, somebody else who's maybe all of his efforts don't quite show up in the box score. Thad was great for the Raptors from a leadership standpoint as well. Nick Nurse, besides here, they spoke to, his ability to work the team in the locker room. The oldest player on the team by a good amount, the only player on the team who is over 30 years old, and he's like 34 years old. So it was a nice veteran presence to have with the team. I'm sure a lot of the younger guys are going to learn from him, like Scotty Barnes, like OG Anunoby. It seems like Thad and OG kind of developed a little bit of a relationship together, a little bit of a friendship together. So on top of the leadership, a good player, and now that we're seeing this trade really start to unfold, the Raptors, we traded down from 20th in the draft to 33 in the draft to get Thad. Thad was great for the Raptors near the end of the season. We like that. We get Christian Koloko, 33rd overall, who, maybe the Raptors would have taken around 20 to 25 in the draft. So, that trade looks a little bit better there. And then we get to Thaddeus Young actually staying beyond that rental contract for another 2 years, 2-year contract worth $60 million. That looks even better for that Goran Dragic trade. So props to Masai Ujiri. I mean, it's not a perfect trade that we executed to get Thaddeus Young, but ultimately, we like the trade at this point. A lot of you Raptors fans, you guys voted. You're saying that you're coming around to the trade. Most people like the trade. A lot of people think it's a really, really good trade. And a few people in the comments of that one said that, okay, we understand how the picks were used. That's great. But now we need to see what unfolds with Thaddeus Young. If we are able to re-sign Thaddeus Young for, a few more years with the Raptors, this trade's going to look even better. Maybe my ranking will move up. And, well, that is exactly what happened with Thad in this situation. Next season, the Raptors doesn't seem like they're going to make any big moves, but the depth is starting to look a little bit better. Obviously, you have your starting five. I'm assuming no big trade is going to happen. My expectation is that no trade is going to happen for any of these guys. You've got Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam. Great starting five. Would love to continue to build around that core. You go to the bench, 6-man, Precious Achiuwa, 7-8 guys, Chris Boucher and Thaddeus Young. You're going to bring in a guy on the mid-level exception, which we're going to talk about in just a second. That's really going to help with the depth. Raptors need to get on that because a lot of the guys I'm looking for are already gone from free agency. But, top 9 looks decent. You've still got Banton. You've still got, we're holding out hope that maybe Flynn can produce NBA level quality on a consistent basis. I'm holding that hope for Justin Champagnie to continue to rise and operate at an NBA level, and I'm sure he's able to do that. There's a lot of good pieces on the bench. Still need to improve a little bit with that mid-level exception, but the reason we have that mid-level exception available is as a result of the contracts that we gave to Boucher and Thaddeus Young. So we signed Boucher first. It was a 3-year deal worth $35.25 million. It was confirmed a little bit later that this was a fully guaranteed deal. Now, looking at it, as soon as I saw it, I went, okay, very, very slightly overpaid Chris Boucher. I wanted to keep Chris Boucher under $11 million a year. We're ended up paying him $11.75 million a year. So very slight overpay. Would have liked to have kept him under $11 million. And the 3-year deal might be a little bit long. I was actually expecting, having seen that, the Raptors would have a team option on the 3rd year for, Chris Boucher is 29, relies so heavily on his athletics. But Raptors don't get that flexibility. The only concern is, I recognize he's a good player, and, for his talent standpoint, what lacks for talent, he makes up for with his athleticism and, how hard he works. But for Chris Boucher, the style of player that he is, if he loses 10 to 15% of that athleticism, his valuation on court drops a lot. And as he gets older, that's just my only concern, not really having the flexibility with that deal. But nonetheless, Boucher is a very important player, as I've alluded to earlier in this video. I think it's good that we brought him back. I would have preferred if we paid him less and we had more flexibility from a team standpoint on that contract, but I would rather give him this 100% than watch him go to another team and get the same amount. So I'm comfortable with the Raptors giving him this amount. It looks even better with Thaddeus Young getting a 2-year, $16 million contract. As far as I know, this is fully guaranteed as well. I wanted to keep Thaddeus Young under $9 million for 2 years, so $18 million contract over 2 years. We keep him at $8 million. So Boucher, looking at it like this, mathematically, Boucher is $750,000 over what I wanted to pay him. Thaddeus Young is $1 million under what I wanted to pay him, and that balances out for me. We're in the green, in my opinion. Keeping Boucher and Thaddeus Young combined to under $20 million was massive for the Raptors. It was very important for the Raptors and very important for this season. The contracts are likely going to be backloaded, so even though the average is 8 a year for Thaddeus Young and 11.75 a year for Chris Boucher, they're going to be backloaded because them signing for this much is great for the Raptors right now as well. As we've freed up the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, I've seen it's worth just under $10.5 million, somewhere in and around that range. And the valuation we've seen for players who have gone in free agency already, the Raptors can get somebody who can definitely help out their team this season, somebody who could be very important to their team this season. Whoever they get, you can get somebody on that mid-level exception for 10 to 10.5 million. You don't even have to go that high. You can go lower if you want to. Good opportunity to bring in a player as a result of these good contracts for Boucher and Thaddeus Young. Combined together, I'm happy. Overall, as far as these players go, very important to bring them back to the team. I know they're getting older, but I still think they can provide value to this team this season, next season, and for Boucher the year after that. Maybe it's not the most ideal contract for Boucher, but overall, I'm happy with the Raptors signing these guys. I'm going to be even happier if we can land a good free agent with that mid-level exception. I'm excited for this season. Raptors looking good to build off that 48-win season, and I'm very excited. So what do you guys make of these contracts? Do you think they were overpaid, underpaid, or just right? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like. When you drop a like, it lets YouTube know that other people who have similar interests to you may also enjoy this video. Therefore, this video is recommended to more people, helping expose amateur sports. Takes you a second to like, but helps me out a ton. And make sure if you're new to the channel, or if you still have not done so, be sure to subscribe and help us on a road to 10,000 subscribers. After just a monstrous week covering draft and free agency, we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. You can help us hit that insane milestone, and I'm super grateful for all of the support nonetheless we've gotten. It's just been a fantastic week. I'm excited to continue to build on into the off season and for the next season. We'll see you again next time for another video.